Countdown to Eternity starts now.
Well, hello, my dear brothers and sisters. I want to welcome you to another episode of Countdown to Eternity. And folks, I'm going to say this, and it's not the hat that's speaking. You can't make this stuff up. Tommy,
yes.
we have a lot of stuff to talk about, bro. I want to bring up just so many of the crazy things that are happening. You have Iran that wants to erect somehow, some way, a new type of JCPOA. They've approached, of all people, the European Union to do it. You have a new poll that just came out that completely spits in the face of absolutely every idea that they have thrown out in Gaza concerning what people think about Hamas and everything else. You have Israel that is on the cusp of yet another, I don't know what to call this. How about we call it an anticipatory event? How about we say that? How about we say that we are literally staring down the barrel of what might be another preemptive attack, and justifiable. And what we're also looking at is Iran going out of their way to make sure, absolutely make sure, that Israel and the United States is blindfolded and hand-tied in getting involved or doing anything further. Things are getting desperate. It's obvious. We're looking at the theater being created by God for many of the things that we read about in the end times. And bro, it feels like the world is literally on fire. Now, with all that said, how are you doing? And let's get into it. Where do you want to jump in? Oh yeah, and did I tell you, by the way, that for the first time since Pearl Harbor, we don't have a single carrier group in the Pacific?
Yes, I did know that. But I believe that it should be heading back here to the Pacific coast like any day now.
Oh, by the time people see this recording, then that'll be the case. Oh, yeah, that's good.
Should be here, but it's very concerning. You know, we watch the Navy has pretty much surrounded the Mideast. I think maybe it's because there's an election coming, and everybody knows Kamala Harris has the brain of a chicken, and if that. So you know, we look at everything. You really got to wonder. Okay, I tell you what, James. Let's take it here. I want to go to the Judea and Samaria. Let's not call it the West Bank. Let's call it what it really is. Let's call it God's name. God has called it Judea and Samaria. So let's call it Judea and Samaria. But let's look at that. So I remember talking with you, and I also talked with David Tal about this. It was months ago. That big problem, and Caroline Galicka brought it up. A big problem in Israel, you know, you have Gaza, we have Hezbollah, but Judea and Samaria, they are right there in the heart of the middle of Israel.
Yep.
And if for anybody that's viewing this, is listening to this, if you've ever been to Israel, you know, Jerusalem, half of Jerusalem is in the West Bank. And you know, when you're on the Mount of Olives, you are actually in the West Bank. If that puts it into your, if you can wrap your minds around that, everybody. So you're standing up there, you're looking at the Temple Mount, you're thinking, no way, that's not part of the West Bank. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
When you start putting the Temple Mount into this equation, and you realize, holy smokes, what is going on? And then we know that Israel is conducting these raids on these terror groups. They might not be known as Islamic Jihad or Hamas, but the big problem with the groups in the West Bank are the little ones. It's like the gangs that are in South Central LA or something like that. They're the little ones, but they're just as violent. They might not be as big and they might not be as organized, but they're harder to identify because they're smaller and they don't have the publicity or any of that. And Israel has to deal with that. And that is like having a murder inside your own house. And you have a big party at your house and you're trying to figure out who's the culprit here that's trying to kill all my guests. And so this is inside Israel.
Bro, I'm telling you, the kind of stuff that we're watching right now is so unbelievably unprecedented. It doesn't even make sense. And I actually heard somebody recently say, get ready to brace yourself and laugh or cry. I heard a popular, let me just say this, a popular prophecy guy. How about we put it that way? Actually say that East Jerusalem is inconsequential and it doesn't even matter.
Who say I'm not going to
I, I'm gonna. It's like because of the discussion of the annexation of land,
okay,
and the idea of a portion of East Jerusalem being given to the Palestinians in a negotiation tactic to be able to bring a new ruler into Gaza as a solution for the elimination of Hamas, which is obscene. I mean, look, even Israel isn't. There's Israelis don't even think that way anymore. There's no one wants a two-state solution in Israel. By the way, when I say no one wants a two-state solution in Israel, I also mean the Palestinians.
Yeah, they don't
want a two-state solution.
They want their one-state solution is get rid of all the Jews. And here's the thing:
go from the river to the sea.
Oh yeah, and by the way, James, just again, so all of our viewers understand this. Listen, Jordan doesn't like the Palestinians. Egypt doesn't want nobody wants the Palestinians. So this is what would happen. Saudi Arabia sure as heck doesn't want anything to do with them. So here's the reality of what would happen. If there was a one Arab state, I guarantee you the Palestinians that are there now, they'd be booted. They'd be eliminated.
Oh yeah.
They're the useful idiots right now in whatever campaign Iran is doing. Nobody wants them. Iran doesn't want them. If Iran wanted them, Iran would be more involved in shipping them home. But they're useful idiots because they're able to develop this propaganda war on behalf of the Shiite Muslim-run people in Iran. So, but the Palestinians won't even exist there if there ever was a one Arab state in the land of Israel. It's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen. But East Jerusalem, inconsequential. I'm thinking, holy smokes, man!
I know. I even have the video of that person saying it, and I just thought, no, it's got to be a joke. There's no way. This can't even be the case. And I'm thinking, I mean, of all people to make a statement like that, I just, Anyway, that's a whole other story.
All right. Okay.
But
so
go ahead, bro.
No, well, I think also this is necessary to keep in mind, not just worth it, it's necessary. So we've seen all the world's attention is on Israel. At least the news media is on it. The global leaders are on it. The world's attention is on Israel. So much hatred. Okay. But the focus has been on Gaza. Now the focus is shifting north, but still on north and on Gaza. And notice how it's starting to get closer and closer to Jerusalem, apparently East Jerusalem too, but Judea and Samaria. And we know biblically that Jerusalem becomes the bullseye, the target. So when we look at Zechariah chapter 12, God doesn't say Israel will become a stumbling stone to the entire world. Jerusalem will. So it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower, which should tell us, folks, we are so close to all of these events coming together, because it's just a matter of time. I mean, we got issues on the Temple Mount we can talk about. We got the people, we have the Orthodox that want to build the temple there. So we have that. We can go back to the rhetoric or the people, the Hamas people, leaders that were saying, no, the reason for October 7 is because of the Jews who want to build the temple on the Temple Mount. They even brought the red heifer into the conversation and everything else. But ultimately, as we really look at it from the bigger picture, it is getting narrower and narrower and narrower. It's focusing more and more. It's turning toward Jerusalem itself.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because it would seem as though that when you take the geopolitics of the region and you dig as deep as you possibly can, it would seem as though Jerusalem is becoming the bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger issue. It's growing and growing and growing and growing. You know what else is too? And this is kind of maybe a show for another day and kind of a side note issue. Babylon, okay? Iraq, southern Iraq. I'm telling you, the conversations that are being had there are remarkable. And where that is going to end up going, especially when you look at what the book of Revelation tells us, I mean, I'm telling you, bro, we are looking at some incredible stuff beginning to formulate. And it makes a lot of sense if you know the scriptures. Like it makes perfect sense. But it is pretty remarkable. And I'm telling you, I'm still infatuated with the movements of these carrier groups. I'm still infatuated with Iran, who appears to be going to the EU, the European Union, to light a fire to start some kind of negotiation for a nuclear deal.
So they want to do an upgrade to the JCPOA, or get rid of it completely and just have a whole new one. Now,
Yep.
here's the reality of it also. There's the threat that Trump could become president.
That's the issue.
Yeah, because why would they do that if they were thinking Kamala's going to win? By the way, when you look at what Zuckerberg said the other day, I'd really like your opinion on that.
Oh, man.
Because we all know he didn't say this because he suddenly has a good heart.
No.
There's different dynamics going on here.
I think there's whistleblowers coming, and he's getting ahead of it.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who have said the same thing. But it would have to be a much more powerful whistleblower than any of them that have been out there yet.
Oh, yeah.
And then we also had the document that says, hey, the U.S. State Department was involved with the takedown of the Telegram. So we're watching these different dynamics. Here's the other thing with Zuckerberg. He has his hand on the pulse of the people. He knows better than every single person on the planet what the people are really saying about Trump and what they're really saying about Kamala, which is also, I mean, no matter what the media tells us and how much they try to spin Kamala is like the Virgin Mary reincarnated or something, Zuckerberg's going to know better than anybody else what the real sentiment is of the people. He has all the money to do it. He has all the people. His people, that's what Facebook does. They take information, they assess it. What does this mean? So he's going to know, I'm thinking he knows, hey, 95% of these people really hate Kamala. So, I mean, there's so many different dynamics playing. You say a whistleblower, I've had a few other friends that have said the same thing, but whatever's happening, and then you look at Iran and this, they're going to reach out to Europe, a new JCPOA. I mean, but here's the other thing. I don't think Iran wants to go head to head with Israel in a battle.
No way. No, because it's a calculated risk. Look, Iran has two options right now. Iran sees the weakness in the United States of America, and they have two ways of dealing with it. The first way is if they truly believe that Kamala Harris will be the president, then the first way is attack the living snot out of Israel. Doing a few more of those massive missile launches, drain all the money out of Israel, and then exploit them in their moment of weakness and attack them in the biggest way that they could possibly imagine. Now, Iran knows that that's not an option. And the reason why Iran knows that that's not an option is because they also understand the problem that they're dealing with as it relates to the Sunni countries that surround them. It's a whole other ball of wax, and we already know that that's not going to be the case. So I think that the bigger issue that overwhelms them is the fact that they believe that there is an anticipatory action that is about to take place on behalf of Israel. Netanyahu is growing in the polls. His stand with the Philadelphia corridor is being backed by the United States of America, even if Gantz and of course Gavir has gone out of his way to usurp the authority of Netanyahu, even one of them by the right wings, especially with the declaration that was made on the Temple Mount, with a synagogue being built there, and Gavir knew exactly what he was doing. Okay, the State Department, for the first time in its history in all of this, has gone in and said, no, we're going to back Netanyahu's stand with what he's dealing with when it comes to the Philadelphia corridor. And I think that the reason why all of that's becoming very consequential to this is because Iran now anticipates the fact that Israel, especially after what they did in Lebanon, okay, that Israel is going to, and mind you, for people that are watching this, you're watching this a week later. So we recorded this a week prior. So if something happens and you'll know that it was right. As of this day, which the time of this recording is the 29th of August, I'm saying this. Israel, let me back up. Iran completely believes that Israel is going to preemptively. There's going to be some type of preemptive strike on Iran. So what Iran is doing right now, and by the way, The preemptive action that Israel will take, if they take it, will be destroy their nuclear assets. That's what they're going to do. Israel's going to go out and destroy their nuclear assets. If any preemptive action is going to take place, it's going to be that. So Iran knows it. They recognize it. You see the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. You see the assassination of the second highest ranking person in Hezbollah, second only to Nasrallah. That's successfully happening. You also begin to see very successful preemptive action taking place in Lebanon. You see it happening, actually, that was retaliatory action in Yemen, which, by the way, is costing now the Yemenis $3.5 million a day in losses. And then the other issue that you have, which takes it a step further, is the fact that Iran knows that they're next. So if I'm Iran, the way that I know to fix this is I have a president who appears to be more moderate than of course, Raisi was, which, by the way, Raisi and Abdullahian had an appointment with a guy by the name of Mossad agent by the name of Helicopter who killed him. Okay. And so Iran knows the number. Okay. When I saw Khomeini speaking the other day, you remember how he was looking? You saw, you mentioned it. He's looking, they're about to shoot us. Okay. So this is what I think they anticipate. They anticipate nuclear action, not nuclear action, but action against their nuclear assets. So what does Iran want to do? Iran wants to take the president that appears to be a lot more moderate than Raisi was, which, by the way, he's a lot more radical than Raisi ever was. And what he's going to do is he's going to say, let's talk. So what does he do? He reaches out to the EU. That's his way of, in a very multilateral way, getting America involved in a conversation regarding nuclear facilities, which would immediately, at least in their perception, take an attack of nuclear facilities off the table for Israel, because Israel, according to international law, would not be allowed to attack a nuclear facility while these negotiations are happening, which, by the way, in terms of international law, we know for a fact, especially with respect to rules of engagement, military law, and so on and so forth, Israel would still be justified in destroying those nuclear facilities. Okay, but I think this is a straw that Iran is grasping. And we've had multiple conversations on this type of thing, but I think that's what's happening. And that brings us to where we currently are in the current day and where we think is where things are going to go next. It's kind of an interesting thing, but it's crazy.
Well, it is. It's really hard to tell what's going to happen next. Is Israel going to do a preemptive strike on Damascus? We talked about that last time.
Oh, yeah.
That, to me, is on the table because there's still certain things that we know biblically that have to be performed, and we're not quite there yet.
Yep.
So we can see we're on this road, and we can see all of the different alignments taking place. But listen, I'm looking at this thinking Iran is not going to go head-to-head with Israel unless Russia is with them.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think they will. Which also, the more you look at it, the more Ezekiel 38 starts to have more clarity. It's not going to happen today, not going to happen tomorrow. But you can see, okay, if Iran knows they can't beat Israel head-to-head, that's why they have their proxies. That's why they send in Hezbollah, Hamas, the rest of them. You go do the fighting for me because they know they can't handle it. So they send in other people to get beat up. But when you look at it from that angle, it makes a lot more sense when you see Ezekiel 38. Iran has to be aligned with Russia and Turkey, and then also with Sudan, Libya.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes a lot more sense when you start to look at everything. What's Iran going to do when they eventually do go against Israel?
Yep, that's good. And then let's throw another monkey wrench in the, what is it? Monkey wrench? A monkey wrench in the cogs. Okay. How about the fact that the CEO of Telegraph gets arrested in France? He leaves from where he's at, knowing that he's likely getting arrested in France, but does it anyway. And the reason why he was in the place that he came from was because he tried to get a meeting with Putin for whatever reason, and apparently Putin rejected the meeting with him. And Putin is now in a panic now that this guy's been arrested in France, because Putin and his military uses Telegraph for their communications, their encrypted communications. What do you think is going to happen with that?
Well,
Where do you think that's going?
yeah. Well, we do know the U.S. State Department has been trying to get at the guy from Telegram for some time. They tried to
I keep
compromise.
saying telegraph, don't I?
Yeah, it's
Did I say
Telegram, right?
sorry, I meant telegram.
Is it
Sorry, not
Telegram?
telegraph. I think you're right. I keep saying telegraph. I'm sorry. I keep saying telegraph, but yeah, you're right, telegram.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the U.S. State Department has been tried to get one of his engineers to compromise to basically be a traitor within the corporation. It didn't work out. So the US State Department actually uh, told the French police, hey, arrest him when he lands there in France. You know, so you start putting all of these different things together. And then the charges, I mean, you look at what they're charging him with,
Oh,
you're going, all right. And then, you have these constant threats that are going on with these leaders who are not going along with this this leftist narrative that's taking place. Elon Musk isn't going along with this. So what are they saying? Well, we're going to arrest you if you come to the UK. This,
oh yeah.
yeah. So you start to see some very big players on both sides of the aisle, and they're threatening to take down anyone who does play. And then we have X is now eliminated from Brazil. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
that. I didn't know I wasn't able to verify that, but I heard that somewhere.
Yes.
It was in passing in a podcast I was listening to, but yeah.
So what are we watching? We're watching two different sides really start to take shape in this world from very, very, very powerful people. You look at the people that are on Trump's side all of a sudden. You have Tulsi Gabbard, you've got RFK Jr., you have Elon Musk. You start looking at that and you're going, okay, what's going to come out of these two different groups? They are clearly two different groups that are emerging. They're the ones who are rebellious and rebelling against the things, the events of the last 5 years, that have
Yeah,
taken place. Because now we can start to see it shape up. Um, and at the center of it all, interestingly, is Israel.
I
By
know,
the way,
bro.
I watched your interview with Dr. J. Um,
Dr. J. Smith.
Dr. J. Smith.
Yeah.
So he brought up the some really interesting dynamics with Saudi Arabia and the Abraham Accords.
Yep.
Well, and I remember we were talking about that quite some time ago with Abraham Accords.
Oh, yeah.
What's going to happen to Israel? It's going to be a boom of business, not just for Israel, but also for Saudi Arabia, any
Oh, yeah.
nation that gets involved with them, a financial boom. Where I believe it'll be what happens in Gaza. Eventually, it's going to come down to it's going to be this beautiful seaport that it should have been a long time
Yep.
ago, but Hamas
Yep.
took over. So these things are going to develop in Israel, and probably, James, I don't think in the too distant future, it's going something's going to give over there. That's going
Yep.
that's going to, I mean, Saudi Arabia, the pressure is definitely building. The election here in the United States is going to make some kind of difference. But as we watch this group that is surrounding Trump that is forming, it is definitely against, I mean, they're pitted against each other. Maybe it's a Hegelian dialectic. They're both being played to get to
Oh, yeah.
to get to a particular goal. That could be the case, but nevertheless, we live in interesting times.
Yeah, and boy, you ain't kidding with that. And it's funny, the conversation about the Hegelian dialectic that makes a pretty significant difference in where this goes. And this again, this is Western influence. This is the kind of stuff that we're beginning to see manifest its ugly face on a whole bunch of levels. And yes, it is touching geopolitical alliances that exist within the Middle East. And there is this coexist mentality. This is Saudi Arabia's Naum project. We like one of the things that we've talked about. This is some of the things that we're watching happening in southern Iraq with Babylon. All of this is a manifestation of everything that's crazy that we would expect to see, and it is a precursor. Let me just say this because I haven't said this in a long time. It is all a precursor to a temporary peace,
Temporary. Oh,
a
okay.
very temporary
I'll throw
peace.
this. Did you mention the Neo project? I think you
Oh
just did.
yeah,
Neo.
the
No,
now
what's it
yeah
called again? Neo,
Naum is what we say. It's the project in Saudi
yeah.
Arabia
I'm trying to think.
they're building these
Neo
big old
City,
massive in
whatever it's called, right? All right,
yeah.
the line. Let's just call it the line. That's the English one. So when you look at it, this is fascinating. It runs for what's 100 miles or 1,000
Oh yeah.
miles or whatever it is, but
Oh
it
yeah.
actually runs through, if you do the old geographical boundaries for the kingdom of Babylon at the time of
Mhm.
Nebuchadnezzar, it actually runs through that.
Yep.
And that is interesting because
I
when you
I'm
look at,
telling you.
you start looking at Babylon and the last days being rebuilt, like you and I both said it will be. Um, and you start looking at Neom, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
now that's what we say.
I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
But it is
Yeah.
fascinating to watch all of this. But Saudi Arabia's involvement, I believe, is going to grow in a very significant way in the very near future regarding all of the things that are developing in the world right now for geopolitical purposes, for the nation of Israel, and even for what's eventually going to be the Babylon of the last days.
Well, and this is the thing, and this is why I always am shocked by people who oftentimes do not recognize Babylon as a literal city. It just doesn't make any kind of sense because when you read Revelation 18, look at the description of Babylon and what's actually happening, right? It's such an interesting thing. Like, look at this. I'll just read this where it talks about the merchants of the earth, as they're looking and they're weeping and they're wailing. I mean, look what it says. This is such an interesting thing. This is Revelation 18:17. It says, "For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by the sea stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto the great city?" And of course, it goes on to talk about, the loss of the city or whatever. But if Naum happens the way that they're planning for it to happen, and then you begin to see the construction of this canal, basically, that they're talking about that's next to Kuwait going further north into that area that intersects, you now have described the ship merchants that are afar off that are watching everything from a portion of the Persian Gulf, just losing their minds watching it all fall apart.
That's crazy, and and cool, because when you start connecting these things, here's a problem: if Babylon in the Bible and all the prophetic passage is just symbolic, why is it so specific?
Oh yeah.
Everywhere it's listed, and not only that, if God, here's another one, James, you probably have dealt with this. Um, the United States of America is the Babylon of Revelation 18. Well, you know, it's just ridiculous because I'm thinking God would have been able to figure that out as he gave us all the prophecies regarding Babylon. And there would have been some kind of indication of what they do is they basically say, well, see, Babylon, it's the merchants. And if they're in the ships looking afar off, that can only happen in America. Then they talk about all the business and
Oh,
everything.
I know.
Listen, America's going to be toast before Revelation 18 Babylon is done. It's going to be gone.
Yep. Yep.
But when I look at this with Saudi Arabia and everything that you just mentioned, I think it's huge, and I think we should be paying attention to it because it does relate specifically to the nation of Israel. And
Yep.
and not only that, I think that we're going to start to see a lot more deals that are coming to
Yep.
bring prosperity.
100%. I mean, bro, you're so right on the money. And if you look at the picture of the Persian Gulf, the biggest barrier that you have for any kind of reasonable type of land bridge is Iran. But if you make peace and then you take India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and some of the areas to the north of there, you basically can run straight across Iran, cut across the port from the bottom of the Persian Gulf, across into southern Iraq, into Saudi Arabia, and north up into Israel to the Mediterranean Sea. You would save people billions and billions and billions of dollars of trade. And you know what that would end up doing? That would end up making that northern portion of the Persian Gulf the premier trading spot. It would become the most significant port in the world.
You know what I
And
think?
don't think for 1 second none of these people want that to happen.
You know what I think?
Yeah.
We should do a program just on that.
Oh yeah, I'd have a lot of fun doing that. That'd be a blast.
That would be, because there's so much going on there that nobody's really even talking about it.
Oh yeah. No, I look, I'm with you on this. I had one of the more intimidating moments of my ministry. I want to say about 6 months ago, not even 6 months ago, maybe four months ago. I have Andy Woods out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere. He lives in Texas, Sugar Land, Texas. Out of nowhere, he walks into my church service here in Southern California. My second service, and I'm thinking, I'm teaching Revelation 18 in front of the world's subject matter expert on Babylon. And I ran some of these ideas by him, and he's like, yeah, I agree with you. You're 100%. You're right on. So I would love to have that conversation.
I think
with you. That would be great.
We should
But
pull up
listen,
pictures of that city, the line, and everything.
oh yeah, no, that'd be great, especially Saudi Arabia's interaction with all of them, and it incentivizes Saudi Arabia's position when Ezekiel 38 takes place.
Oh, totally. Why would Saudi Arabia be protesting and saying, "Hey, are you coming here to plunder Israel?"
Yeah, because you're ruining us.
You know, what's going on? And it makes a lot of sense when you get all your investments there.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. Look, that's the whole thing with the petrodollar changing. It's the thing we talked about. Saudi Arabia isn't saying we're not going to trade with American money anymore. The petrodollar has everything to do with the weakening perspective that they have on United States treasuries. That's what that is, and that means they're shifting everything back into their region for trade.
Yeah, I got to go.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking that. I'm watching the clock. I'm like, you got to get going. All right, folks, let's do this. Any last word for you?
No.
Because I always give it to you.
No, you know what? We got to remember, when we see these things begin to take place, what are we supposed to do? Look up and lift up our head, because our redemption draws near. And James, I can't wait to do that next program with you on that. Babylon.
Amen. We're going to have fun.
Do it on
Babylon. I can't wait to record that with you.
Right.
Yep, we'll record it. That's a solid week away. We're looking forward to that. Folks, I can't even tell you how much we are blessed making these shows for you. We hope that you are so much blessed by what we're doing. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed making it. We love you guys. God bless you. On behalf of my very dear brother, we're just so grateful to you guys. On behalf of Tom Hughes, God bless you guys. We love you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Countdown to Eternity. God bless you.